الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم أعوذ بالله من شر الشيطان. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. اللهم صل على محمد. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. The first of our loud salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The discussion concerning separation versus combination of prayers is one of the most important discussions in Islamic legal theory, and is a discussion which requires a thorough analysis, for it is a discussion which affects the lives of many Muslims in the world today. A discussion from which many a lesson may be learnt, and indeed many a fascinating example may be derived. And indeed a discussion which allows us to dissect the heritage of every legal school within the religion of Islam. Indeed, you find many people in the world today ask a question. That question concerns whether the Holy Prophet used to separate his prayers, or did the Holy Prophet used to combine his prayers? Indeed, such a question is a question which many of us may have asked in our own communities. That sometimes the Shia are accused of being the laziest when it comes to the way they approach their prayers. You find, for example, many from the school of Ahl al-Bayt ask themselves, that is the way we combine our prayers something which would really bring us the discipline that the prayer envisaged? As in, when we combine Dhuhr and Asr, and we combine Maghrib and Isha, and we see other Muslims who completely separate, who is really gaining from their prayer? Is it us in our combination, or is it the other Muslims in their separation? And indeed you find that this question is a pertinent question, as in, how many of us have been to Medina in the time of Hajj or Umrah, and we've gone to the mosque for Salat al-Dhuhr, but for Salat al-Asr we are not present. Or we've gone to the mosque for Salat al-Maghrib, but Salat al-Isha we are not present. We may even be leaving the mosque at Salat al-Isha while all the Muslims are coming to the mosque. And therefore someone asks themselves the question, what is the true sunnah of the Prophet and the Imams of Ahl al-Bayt? As in, the Prophet and the Imams of Ahl al-Bayt, did they envisage that their community would be a community where the majority of the community has stuck to combination? Or is it that the Imams of Ahl al-Bayt, through the sunnah of the Prophet, wanted a separation? As in, how many times do other Muslims come to you and say that you are the people who pray 3 times a day, whereas the real sunnah of Rasulullah is to pray 5 times a day? As in, would you believe there are certain Muslims in the world today who unfortunately until today believe that we only pray 3 times a day? As in, if you go to parts of Indonesia, Malaysia, or even parts of Bangladesh, and even in the most remote parts of the Hijaz, you'll find that there are people who, when you ask them who are the Shia, they reply to you by saying that the Shia are those who only pray 3 times a day. They do not follow the sunnah of Rasulullah, and that Rasulullah prayed 5 times a day. And this is something of a tragedy. As I've said in my previous few nights, Muslims, before they make accusations against other Muslims, have to be willing to look at each other's heritage. In the same way, I, as a follower of Ja'far bin Muhammad, I'm willing to look at the works of Malik in his Muwatta, or for example the work of Ahmad bin Hanbal in the Musnad. Likewise, I expect the followers of those schools to look at my works as well, to see, am I truly someone who prays 3 times a day and neglects the sunnah of 5? Yet the reality is that the question is a pertinent one. Why is it that we cannot separate? And is it that Rasulullah only separated, as in his whole life? Did Rasulullah only separate or not? Let's dissect this question in the following stages. Number 1, why does the Lord of Islam stress on time for salah? Why doesn't he just allow us to pray to him at any time? Number 2, and of the utmost importance when it comes to this area, does the Quran ever have a verse which says you pray 5 times a day? Number 3, how do we verify when is Fajr, when is Dhuhr, when is Asr, when is Maghrib, and when is Isha, if we never had a timetable with us today? Number 4, did the Prophet separate or combine? And if he combined, was it only because of rain and traveling, or were there other reasons as well? And number 5, how much stress did the Imams of Ahlul Bayt put on the importance of prayer? And which Imam in his last days could not tell the difference between the time of day and the time of night? Let's examine this and dissect this topic in complete depth. When you come to the first question in this area, it's an interesting question which is posed by many non-Muslims and indeed posed by some Muslims as well. Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set for us times in which we talk to Him? Why doesn't He just allow us to talk to Him when we want to? You know, there are certain people who do not come towards the religion of Islam because of salah. When you ask them, why don't you become Muslims? They say, your system is too rigid. You say, what do you mean our system is too rigid? They say, you're telling me that I have to wake up in the middle of the night for 5 minutes, and then I've got to be awake in the daytime where I've got to leave my work, leave my family and pray. And then in the evening I've got to do the same. This is something unrealistic. I'd rather pray to a Lord who's a loving Lord, who listens to me whenever I speak to Him, who hears me whenever I call upon Him. Not a Lord who tells me, okay, I'll listen to you a bit in the morning, a bit in the afternoon, a bit in the evening. Even the Quraysh, when they heard about Islam, the Quraysh, many of them, what did they say? The Quraysh, many of them said, Muhammad, your religion is a nice religion, but this salah, it's a bit too long for us. You're expecting us in the middle of the night to just wake up for a few minutes and to come and pray and then go back to our beds. If you remove salah, we are willing to join your religion. If, however, salah remains, we have no interest. You find on the first level, the answer to this question also is vital for those who have a particular theory. There are certain Muslims in the world today, because he's so busy for Allah. You know, we can be busy for Allah. There are certain Muslims who are so busy that they can't make room for Allah. So what they do is they do Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha at the end of the day. MashaAllah. And if it was that easy, I'm telling you, we'd all do it at the end of the day. There are certain Muslims, he will actually come at the end of the day and he'll do all 17 rak'ahs, for example. And you say to him, why? He says, you would not believe how busy it was at work today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for about 11 hours was not in my life. So I decided that I'll make for him about 45 minutes at the end of the night. Other than that, there's no need to make time for him. You find that there are certain Muslims with this type of mentality. Why do I pray Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha? Let me just do it at 11:58. And at 11:58 everything will be alright. We reply in the following answers. Firstly, when a non-Muslim says to me, your Lord, because He sets for you times, is not a loving Lord. Do you know what we reply? We reply by saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, call me and I will answer you at any time. Why? Because we have 2 types of prayers. We have salah and we have dua, isn't it? Dua is when you can talk to Allah any time of the day and Allah does not restrict you. How many of you have heard, for example, in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِ عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعاني. When my servant asks you about me, say to him that I am near. I answer the supplication of the supplicant when he supplicates towards me. The Quran, what does it say? Quran, this is the only time Allah uses the singular. Every other time when Allah talks about himself in the Quran, he always uses the plural. Have your children ever asked you, Mom, Dad, if God is one, why does he always say we? Isn't it? You always hear this question. If God is one, why does he say inna, we? In the Quran, the royal we is because Allah is the greatest, the most grand, so he talks in the plural. However, the only verse in the Quran where Allah talks in the singular is the verse about dua. Because Allah wanted to show you, ask me at any time, I will answer you, I'm that near to you. Therefore, when someone says to you, Muslims have a prayer 5 times a day which is too rigid, reply, hold on, we have dua where you can recite at any time of the day, at any night as well. And many supplications, to the extent you find that many of our traditions say from the Quran, were it not for our prayer, that is dua, Allah would not care for us. The only link we have with Allah, which is the greatest link, is our dua. Our second Imam was once asked, what's the distance between the heavens and the earth? He replied, the call of an oppressed person in dua. That's it. When a person is oppressed, if they call in dua, that's the distance between the heavens and the earth. Therefore, what do you find? You find that those who say this, that's number one. Number two, when Allah set specific timings for salah. Why did Allah set specific timings? It's to build discipline in you, the human being. If you're on time for the meeting with your Creator, you can definitely be on time with the meeting with His creation. Some of us, I promise you, if you have an important job interview, someone says to you, be there at 7. Wallah, there are certain people there at 6:40. True? And he's come in the best uniform, and he's come slicked back hair, and the aftershave, and he's looking his best, because it's the meeting with an important creation. When you tell them at 7 o'clock you have a meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for some reason the guy turns up at 11:50. Hold on a minute. The creation, I can turn up on time, but the Creator I neglect. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا, the salah had its prescribed timings. What did the Quran mean? The Quran was saying we want to build a disciplined being. A being who recognizes the importance of his conversation with his Lord will recognize the importance of his discussions with the creations of the Lord. And try in your own life, if for 1 week you can discipline yourself to pray every salah on time. The moment you can discipline yourself with the Creator, you'll be able to discipline yourself with the creation. That's why whenever people say to me, salah is boring, salah is a chore. Yes, of course, it's boring and a chore when we don't understand what the benefits are of salah. But the moment I recognize Allah put times for salah to discipline me, to tell me that these times I have to look after them, then I recognize the wisdom behind this. Then there's a third wisdom, why Allah tells you to wake up in the middle of the night. The Arabs said, oh Muhammad, your Lord expects us to wake up at Fajr, in the middle of the night, for 2 minutes. That prayer we don't want. The Arabs missed the wisdom of the point. What's the wisdom? And I tell you, the non-Muslim sometimes misses the wisdom of this point as well. What is it? When a Muslim is the only of Allah's creation who wakes up in the middle of the night, what does our fourth Imam say about that person? He says to the person who claims he loves Allah but does not honor Him in Salat al-Fajr, oh my Lord, how can I claim to love you when I can't wake up in the middle of the night to thank you? True? How can I claim to love Allah and I can't wake up in the middle of the night? You know what it means when it says middle of the night? It means I've had a night of rest, a night of sleep, in a comfortable bed, in a beautiful house, with my family surrounding me, with the air beautiful around me. I can get water next to me, food is available to me. All of these blessings. I can't wake up for 5 minutes to say thank you? 5 minutes. Imam says what? How can I claim to love you when I can't wake up in the middle of the night to thank you? All that Fajr was what? Was that it taught you as a human being, be grateful. 8 hours of clear sleep, you can't say thank you to me once. Just be grateful. For 5 minutes, wake up and say thank you. Because if you can't be grateful to me, you won't be grateful to anyone else. I'm culturing thankfulness in your soul. You see some human beings, when they're not thankful, know that they've never been thankful to their Lord. They're not going to be thankful to me and you, believe me. Those human beings will not be thankful to me and you because to Allah they couldn't thank in the middle of the night. How are they going to thank me and you? Therefore, on the first level in the discussion of separation versus combination, you find Allah set these times, these specific times, and that's why the question arose. When Allah set times for salah, did Allah in the Quran say, I've set 5 times for salah? You see, whenever our brothers come to us, they say, you Shia only pray 3 times. The Quran says pray 5. I defy them to show me one verse in the Quran which says pray 5 times a day. Which verse? There's not a single verse in the Quran which says pray 5 times a day. There are verses in the Quran which say 3 times, 3 periods, which become 5. But there's not one verse in the whole Quran which says, oh Muslim, pray 5 times a day. And do you know many of our brothers, when you say this to them, he'll be in disbelief. He'll be like, no, the Quran says 5. Say, Habibi, where in the Quran does it say 5? You show me, where? He'll look in the Quran, I'll show you the verses of the times of Salah, it's always 3, it's never 5. There is never a verse which says, pray Fajr, pray Dhuhr, pray Asr, pray Maghrib, pray Isha. It's always, let's look at a few verses as an example. Surah 17, verse 78. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر. The Quran says what? Establish salah on the declining of the sun and the darkness of the night and the period of dawn. Tell me how many salahs I mentioned here? 5? 3? 17, 78. Surah 17 verse 78. أقم الصلاة دلوك الشمس, declining of the sun. غسق الليل, غسق is the darkness of the night. Shafaq is the redness of the night. Then what? Quran al-Fajr, and the period of dawn. Let's look at another verse, because just in case someone comes and says, there are other verses. Yes, there are. No problem. Surah 11, verse 114. أقم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل. Establish salah 2 parts of the day and a part of the night. 2 parts of the day and a part of the night. How many parts does that make? 3, isn't it? It doesn't make 5. Another verse in the Quran where salah is mentioned, Surah 24, verse 58, about how your children, if they haven't reached bulugh, there are still times in the day they cannot see you. يا أيها الذين آمنوا ليستأذنكم الذين ملكت أيمانكم والذين لم يبلغ الحلم منكم 3 مرات. When? من قبل صلاة الفجر وحين تضعون ثيابكم من الظهيرة وبعد صلاة العشاء. Says 3 periods again. You have the period of Fajr, Dhuhr, Isha. I ask my brother, when you're telling me I'm a Shia and I do not pray right because the Quran says 5. The Quran has never said 5. The Quran has always put 3 periods for Salah. And even in these 3 periods, there's a vital point of combination in its essence. That Dhuhr and Asr are mushtarak, Maghrib and Isha are mushtarak, there's a sense of combination, and Fajr is by itself. 11, 114, 17, 78, 24, 58. These are the 3 verses in the Quran which tell you the periods of Salah. There is not a single verse for those who attack us, the school of Ahlul Bayt, as being a school that doesn't follow the Sunnah of the Quran, that the Quran says 5. The Quran never has said 5. I have never seen and will never see, unless someone wants to make a new Quran, we will never see a verse which comes forward and says what? A verse which says pray 5. We therefore conclude on this basis that the Quran mentions for us 3 periods, but then the Sunnah of Rasulullah tells us 5. Because in the Sunnah of Rasulullah, Fajr, then you have Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha. Someone asks, how do you verify Fajr? How do you verify Dhuhr? How do you verify Asr? How do you verify Maghrib? How do you verify Isha? This is a fundamental point. Why? Because, okay, we live in a beautiful age of technology today. Alhamdulillah, you click a button on the internet and straight away the timetable emerges. But do you know how much the imams of the different schools of fiqh across the Muslim world, do you know how much they try to protect the salah of Rasulullah by trying to make sure that they gathered the hadiths which teach a person in a remote area where he may not have the world's most advanced technology, they still provided him with an understanding of what Fajr was, what Dhuhr was what Asr was Maghrib, what was Isha. You find, for example, when it came to Fajr, the ulama said that when it came to Fajr, before dawn, you may see a column of whiteness from the east. Seeing this column of whiteness from the east before dawn, they called that the false dawn. When there's a spread of that column of whiteness, they called that the second dawn. Therefore, they termed that what? That was the time to pray Fajr. Then you found, for example, when they tried to term what is Dhuhr, they said when the sun crosses the meridian and continues, where the shadow of the object, the length is the same as the height, that is Dhuhr. If the length of the shadow of the object exceeds the height, then you know that Dhuhr is ending. If the length exceeds the height up until the period of sunset, then that is Asr. Then if you have still what? Sunset, then sunset is producing Maghrib. When the reddish glow removes itself from the western horizon, then you have come towards what? The end of Maghrib. Then with Isha, you see the darkness of the night and the removal of the yellow twilight. Differing, of course, on Abu Hanifa and Malik and Shafi'i and Ahmad bin Hanbal's opinions. Yet you found Islam, for each salah, gave a particular understanding. This is Fajr, this is Dhuhr, this is Asr, this is Maghrib, this is Isha. Even some of the school of Ahlul Bayt say, okay, what's the qada for Dhuhr or the qada for Maghrib? Say we wanted to separate. What would be the qada for Dhuhr? The qada for Dhuhr is the period in which you can pray Asr before Maghrib. The length of time it takes for you to pray Asr just before Maghrib, that period there, Dhuhr has become qada. Because you know, sometimes our people, you'll find him praying Dhuhr at what time? If Maghrib is at 6:58, he's praying Dhuhr at 6:57 and 49 seconds, isn't it? And he's finished it, and then Iftar, mashallah, is waiting for the person. Wallah, I wish it was that easy. Because you know, in the Shahr Ramadan, what tends to happen with some of us is if we stay up late nights, that person thinks to himself, you know what, I've got nothing tomorrow, I'll wake up just before Iftar. Of course, there's no Allah, there's no existence to wake up to at 1 o'clock, to thank. No. I'll wake up just before Iftar. You find, no, Salatul Dhuhr becomes qada when that length of time it takes to pray Asr before Maghrib, that is when it becomes qada. Because Allah allows the timing for Asr to be that time just before Maghrib. Likewise, if Maghrib's qada is the period it takes for Isha before the middle of the night. And Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, even within the Nahj, he has discussions concerning each of these timings for salah. Be it at the time of Fajr, when a person, you know when it's Fajr, when you can recognize the face of the companion, he says. Or for example, if he's talking about Dhuhr, when the equal length of the wall of the goat pen is equal to the wall itself. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen allows you to understand that if the person is breaking his fast, then know that the time of Maghrib has come. Each of these times, Al-Muhammad stipulated that clearly, you want to ask us about combination, we'll provide you with details about combination. You want to ask us about separation, we'll provide you with details about separation as well. And that's why someone asks, what was the sunnah of Rasulullah? Was the sunnah of Rasulullah Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha? Or was the sunnah of Rasulullah, no, Fajr, Dhuhr and Asr, Maghrib and Isha? Let's understand it on a base concept. Every Muslim in this world today, every Muslim has to believe in combination. And that's why students who haven't studied Islamic law and throw this attack on a Shia, if they've studied basic law, be they followers of Imam Abu Hanifa, or followers of Imam Malik, or followers of Imam Shafi'i, or followers of Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, they will know that each of those Imams said there is a time for combination, no doubt. But they differed as to when the time of combination was. For example, they agreed that at Arafah, you have the jam' which is known as taqdeem. And at Muzdalifah, you have the jam' which is known as ta'khir. At Arafah, they combine Dhuhr and Asr, isn't it? You see, Muslims at Arafah combine Dhuhr and Asr. Asr returns back towards what? You bring the two together. At Muzdalifah, the Muslims will come together, and you'll find what? There is a combination between Maghrib and Isha. So Jami' al-Taqdeem and Jami' al-Ta'khir occurs amongst all Muslims. But what you find is that in the four schools of fiqh of our brothers from Ahl Sunnah, you will find that they differ as to when you can combine your salah. Abu Hanifa says, only in that period in Hajj are you allowed to combine your salah. Only. Malik, Shafi'i, and Ahmed bin Hanbal say you're allowed to combine your salah when it is raining, or when you're traveling, or when you are in a state of fear. But I thought you can't combine salah. Habibi, when you give an opinion on the basis of knowledge. Don't just give me an opinion after reading 2 articles on the internet. As in, today everyone's become a mufti, isn't it? Everyone. You go anywhere in the Muslim world, Ayatollah Googly and Ayatollah Wikipedia, all of these people, every single one of them, he's read a couple of articles on the internet, and you see him all of a sudden giving you fatwas. You're wrong, we're right. Calm down. There are people who take years to study these intricacies of jurisprudence. When you come, every school says, combination occurs. We reply by saying, if Malik and Imam Shafi'i and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, if they say combination can only be when you're traveling or in fear or rain, does that mean that Rasulullah only combined in these circumstances? Not at all. Rasulullah combined in circumstances other than these as well. And where are the references? This is where we have a problem, both the Shia and the Sunnah. None of us read our books. This is simple. The Shia don't read their books, and the Sunnah don't read their books. And what begins to happen is people start slanging each other off without having read their literature. If you go to the main books of our brothers in Ahlul Sunnah, it is clear that Rasulullah used to separate his salah and used to combine his salah. Which books? For example, Imam Malik, his book, Al-Muwatta, has a hadith where it narrates from Ibn Abbas, that Ibn Abbas says, I saw Rasulullah combine his Dhuhr and his Asr, and combine his Maghrib and his Isha without there being fear or traveling or rain. Hey, Malik in his Muwatta says that Rasulullah would combine, and there's no issue of rain or travel or fear. Then you have the most hadith about combination of salah. Do you know where? Sahih Muslim. Muslim bin Hajjaj al-Nisapuri, in his Sahih, has a monumental section, the chapter of combining salah. It is so simple. Go to the chapter of combining salah of Muslim. In the chapter of combining salah, he narrates a hadith that Ibn Abbas one day was giving a majlis, was giving a lecture. When he was giving a lecture, someone interrupted him and said, Ibn Abbas, it's the time for prayer. He didn't say anything. Ibn Abbas, it's the time for prayer. He didn't say anything. Ibn Abbas, it's the time of prayer. Ibn Abbas turned around to him and he said to him, that may your mother be deprived of you. You teach us about salah while we prayed with salah with Rasulullah. We combined our salah with Rasulullah. Clear in Sahih Muslim. In another hadith, it says that when the person heard Ibn Abbas say, we combined our salah with Rasulullah, the person went to ask Abu Hurairah, because he felt that Abu Hurairah and Ibn Abbas were on the same level. He went and asked Abu Hurairah. Abu Hurairah said, it is how he says it. You found therefore in Sahih Muslim, you had a chapter called the combination of salah. Then he had another chapter. Do you know what he named it? The chapter of the combination of salah while at home. To highlight that it's not just when you're traveling that you can combine. At home, there's no harm. He narrates a hadith where Ibn Abbas says that Rasulullah, even when he didn't travel, he used to combine his salah at home. He'd combine Dhuhr and Asr, and he'd combine Maghrib and Isha. Then the next question was, why would Rasulullah allow combination? Bukhari, in the Sahih of al-Bukhari, you find that within the Sahih, what does it say? Muhammad bin Ismail al-Bukhari says within his Sahih that there is a chapter called, it's not called the combination of prayer. He ironically doesn't have a chapter on combination of prayer, yet every hadith he mentions under the chapter is about combination. The chapter is called the chapter of the darkness of the night, the chapter of Isha. Within it he says, Rasulullah used to pray salah which was 7 rak'ah long. Is there a salah which is 7 rak'ahs? No, there isn't. So what does that mean? That means Maghrib and Isha, combination. In another hadith he says, Rasulullah used to pray 8 rak'ah salah. There's no such thing as an 8 rak'ah salah. It's Dhuhr and Asr together. In another narration, there is the narration which states, someone said, Ibn Abbas, why is Ibn Abbas combined his salah today? The reason for combination was given. That Ibn Abbas, and Nasa'i narrates this hadith, and Nasa'i, his book, Sunan al-Nasa'i, is one of the 6 main books of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And Nasa'i was killed because of his love for Ali ibn Abi Talib. They tortured him to death because he loved Amir al-Mu'mineen. And Nasa'i has a narration where he says, Ibn Abbas combined salah because he was busy. At work, So what he did, he combined his salah so his salah wouldn't become qada later on. And that's why when people asked Ibn Abbas, why did Rasulullah allow combination? Please listen to the wisdom of Rasulullah. Oh Ibn Abbas, why did Rasulullah allow combination? Ibn Abbas said, Rasulullah said, because this religion, Islam, has come to bring you ease and not hardship. Simple. Just because I separate my salah doesn't mean I'm trying to be like a champion amongst Muslims. No. The religion came to bring ease and not hardship. Rasulullah recognized that not everyone in their world of work has the luxury of being able to take time off for salah. Some do. But then there are others, no. There may be a time when a person's lunch break in Arabia may have been 4 hours. Today, it may be 5 minutes long. Rasulullah recognized, I don't want these people all praying qadha every time they get home. Do you know how many people will pray dhuhr in a mosque? Then you'll see him sleep in that mosque. Have you noticed? He's sleeping. Then do you know when you wake him up? Just at the time of Maghrib. Brother, wake up. What time is it? The Maghrib. Oh, I got to get to Asr. What do you mean you got to get to Asr? So you were sleeping all this time to wait for Asr just before Maghrib? Why didn't you put the two together? If you're going to sleep, then put the two together. If you're going to go back to work, then separate. No problem. Rasulullah envisaged there would be a time where Muslims trying to separate would end up missing the prayer. They put themselves in a situation where they do that prayer qadha. So Rasulullah said, this religion has come to bring ease and not hardship. I am your prophet, aren't I? If you want to be pious, aren't you meant to follow me? Even I as your prophet combine my salah. There are times when I think I need to combine my salah. I need to bring Dhuhr and Asr together. Then there are other times, no. I believe that if I separate my salah, I have time. That's why if we go, for example, on ziyarah, sometimes I say when we go on ziyarah, why don't we separate our prayers? As in on ziyarah, we have so much free time on our hands, don't we? Realistically. When you go, for example, to Mecca or Medina or to Mashhad or to, for example, Karbala, how much time do you have on your hands? So why do you need to put the two together? Why don't we wait? We pray our dhuhr, then we pray our asr. In the school of Ahlul Bayt, you can pray the asr directly afterwards. There isn't a problem. Because remember, the original verses said that the timings are combined. When Allah mentioned dhuhr and asr, they were combined in the Quran. You can do that, or you can separate. There is no problem. Of course, Muhammad would want a person, the highest reward is in separation. There's no doubt. The highest reward is in separation. Why? A person who separates, his day revolves around his salah. And a person who combines, his salah revolves around his day. A person who separates, his day revolves around his salah. When he knows dhuhr at 1:15, he prays it. But he knows asr, for example, let's say asr is at, let's say 4:47, he will not take a meeting at 4:47 because he says, I've got another meeting with my Lord at that time. The whole day's complexion changes. Rasulullah said, if you want to do that, there is great reward. No doubt. We the Shia aren't the people who are saying, no, we have to combine. No, if you can separate, then you get closer to Allah in separation, then why not? You can allow your day to revolve around your salah, then why not? Why shouldn't a person make 5 different times in honor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, talking to Allah? So you found Ahlul Bayt stressed on this in their lives. And that's why you found each of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt would be focusing on the importance of Salah's timing, because it brought discipline to them in their lives and brought discipline to their followers as well. Look at the Imams of Al Muhammad, how much discipline they displayed in their life because of their Salah. If you look at Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, for example, that narration which is mentioned in the lives of many, the narration which states what? That Ali ibn Abi Talib had an arrow stuck in his ankle. And the companions would come and ask Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, when is the best time to remove this arrow from the ankle of Amir al-Mu'mineen? When do you think the best time is? For us today, wallah, just one small splinter in our toe, we start crying and shouting and screaming in ambulance and hospital. You find Amir al-Mu'mineen, Rasulullah said what? Rasulullah said, take it out while Ali is in his salah. They said to him, why ya Rasulullah? He says, because he knows no one but his Lord when he's in his salah. That much discipline in his salah he displayed in his life. It would not be ironic that his son Imam al-Hussein would display that discipline on his way to Karbala. I tell you, one of the most beautiful moments of humility on the way to Karbala, or when they got to Karbala, was when Imam al-Hussein asked Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi, Hur, why don't you lead us in Salah? It's as if Al Muhammad were not coming to say Salah is ours. No, rather we all want to be united in our Salah, standing toe to toe, shoulder to shoulder alongside each other. Hur looked at him and he said, Aba Abdullah, a person like you, the son of Fatima al-Zahra, how can I lead ahead of you? May my mother's life be sacrificed for your mother. Even though Hur at the time was the opposition, but he still had that humility that Aba Abdullah is in front of me in Salah. I go and pray when the grandson of Rasulullah is there. And that's why even when Umar bin Sa'ad wants to attack Imam al-Hussein, look what feeling is in Imam al-Hussein before he is about to be killed. He tells Umar bin Sa'ad, give me one more night where me and my companions can spend the night in Salah. Where me and my companions, that prayer which disciplined us to reach this level, allow us one more night. And even on the 10th of Muharram, when he prayed that prayer where two of his companions would take arrows on their body just to protect Salah and the timing of Salah. Yet Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, in his life, he could tell the difference between day and night. It's an honor, isn't it? It's an honor that in my lifetime, when it's day, I can tell it's Dhuhr. When it's night and I see the darkness of the night, I can tell it's Maghrib and Isha. And Imam al-Hussein the same. He was able to see the difference between darkness and night. May Allah bless the soul of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far in those years which he spent in the prisons of Baghdad. Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, may Allah bless his soul and raise us alongside him. The only Imam of Al Muhammad who in his last days couldn't tell what time the Salah was except from the voices of the prison guards. 20 years they moved Imam Musa ibn Ja'far from one prison to another, from one prison to another, from one guard to another. And yet, do you know the only thing that kept Imam Musa ibn Ja'far going in these prisons? Wallah, it was only his Salah. As in, you know, when Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, the first time he went into prison, when he went into prison the first time, they said to him, how do you feel? He said, Alhamdulillah. They said to him, what do you mean? He said, all my life, I've asked Allah to allow me to worship Him alone. I thank Him now that He gives me a prison to worship Him alone. Who would have a mind like that, where he says in prison, Alhamdulillah, I'm worshipping Allah. Yet in prison they moved him from one side to the other. Imagine how Imam al-Radha felt not seeing his father, or how Bibi Ma'sooma felt being away from her father. And Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, when he was moved from one prison to the other, they moved him to a particular prison where he was in social confinement. He couldn't tell the difference between the day and the night. Do you know the only way he could tell what time Salah was? He'd hear the security guard reciting Salah. When he hears the security guard, he'd know what time it was for Salah. The one moment they opened the rock from the top of his cell, he had this really skinny cell, really tense cell, they removed the rock. He wanted just to see daylight. As soon as he rose his head to see the daylight, one of the guards came and kicked the face of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, just above it. As soon as he kicked the face, Imam fell back down on the ground. He recited this dua before he passed away. He said, Ya Allah, all my life I asked you to give me a place where I could worship you alone. And that you gave me. But Ya Allah, I cannot take the prisons of Harun al-Rashid anymore. The way they are torturing me is a torture no one will see. As the famous poet said, there is no day like the day of Aba Abdullah, but there are no years like the years of Imam Musa al-Kadhim in prison. And that's why when Imam Musa al-Kadhim, when one of his Shia came to visit him in prison, he said to him, Imam, when are we going to see you? It's been too long, we've been waiting for you. Imam said, meet me on Friday on the bridge in Baghdad. Those of you who've been to Kadhmain, remember that glorious shrine in Kadhmain. He said, meet me on the bridge in Baghdad. The Shia all gathered. They said, we can't wait for Friday. Eventually, when the Friday came, an announcement was made. Oh people, there is a body on the bridge in Baghdad. Someone come and collect it. And the Shia thought that what? That they thought Imam al-Kadhim's coming out today. Little did they know they'd see a body on the bridge in Baghdad. When they came near that body, they wanted to see whose body. It was the body of Imam al-Kadhim on the ground in Baghdad. When they came, they asked, does this man have any family around him who can bury him? There was a reply which was a sad reply. And the reply was, no, all his family are in Medina. There is no one to bury him. But eventually some of the Shia gathered his body, they buried him straight away. They say at least Imam al-Kadhim was buried straight away. Whereas Aba Abdullah's body lay on the ground in Karbala for 3 days with no one to come and bury him, no one to come and protect him, no one to come and look after him. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to honor the prayers of Muhammad and Al-Muhammad. Allow us to follow their path and receive their intercession in this world and the hereafter. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to unite the Muslim Ummah and to allow them to be amongst those who engage in dialogue with another. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it the loudest of your salawat. Bismillah.